think it's dawned on me that you ain't coming back.
Hey everyone, welcome back. The new Nightwave has released in Warframe, and I'm here to tell you that you'll really want to do it this time. Why? These two new augments, Sentient Surge and Sentient Barrage, are particularly strong. More importantly, the BATTACOR and Ocucor are already extremely strong weapons to start with. I know they do not sit in the meta space, but trust me, they have been coasting directly under it for years now. Why? Well, BATTACOR Primary Fire Mode has Multiplicative Gun CO, meaning this mod acts like Eclipse on it. It also has an extremely beefy Altfire that has hidden stats not even shown here, but on the surface, you can tell it has a lot of crit. It charges up to 3 stacks, and the raw damage shown represents the damage of only 1 charge. A 3-charged shot literally does 3 times the damage. Ocucor, on the other hand, has only decent crit but solid status. Each kill releases an extra homing body shot tendril to do extra damage, up to 4 tendrils, and lasts until you forcefully reload. I mean forcefully, because synth set holster reload, eject magazine, ammo efficiency such as Arcane Pistolier can get around this. Tendrils have some pretty aggressive lock-on and will shift immediately to the next target when the previous die. They follow your reticle within 40 degrees, doing extra 50% total DPS per tendril. This means with all 4 tendrils, the weapon innately does triple damage scaling, but it can also hit up to 5 different enemies instead of just 1, spreading statuses up to 5 times faster. Today's video will focus on the BATTACOR Augment, but don't worry, I'll cover the Ocucor Augment in the near future. Sentient Barrage is an extremely important augment, and it's not just for the damage, it's for the charge refill too. See, it does give 300% crit chance and crit damage, which pushes us well into orange crit territory with crazy multipliers, as well as infinite body punch through, but you lose the explosion. You probably also notice I've been using Ambassador clips in the background instead of just BATTACOR. Ambassador is the king of Ragdoll grouping setups, specifically Ragdoll grouping, because we have different types. Ensnare is non-Ragdoll, Magus Anomaly is non-Ragdoll, Airburst, Larva, Coal Horizon, and Pole are all Ragdoll grouping abilities. Ragdoll changes how enemy hitboxes work, so let's go over this quickly. Normally when you hit an enemy, their entire body can only receive 1 hit. You pick whether it hits an arm, a head, a leg, whatever it's closest to the detonation or point of impact, and that's the hit your weapon inflicts. Even on Ragdoll enemies, this is usually true. However, this is not true for Hitscan AoEs and electric proc chaining specifically. So what is a Hitscan AoE? A hitscan weapon with AoE on it that applies instantly. This includes most recently Burst and Incarnon's small AoE, Opticor Vandal's AoE on the area of impact, BATTACOR's Altfire AoE, and, most famously, Ambassador's Altfire AoE. There are a few others, but these are the ones to mention today. Hitscan AoEs and electric procs are different for ragdolls. When they hit them, each limb is considered a different hitbox. Hitscan AoEs can hit all the arms and legs of a ragdoll enemy and result in applying damage 4 or more times from a single shot because every hit counts. This is how Opticor Vandal can get more consistent slash procs from Hunter munitions on, say, a Larva build. This is on top of multi-shot and is multiplicative to it, meaning you can easily end up with 10 to 15 hits. For the purpose of electric procs, each limb on a ragdolled enemy can be hit by a weapon to create the procs, meaning a shot that would normally produce 2 electric procs can now produce 8. That is what happens with Ambassador. This also means you now have 8 times more electric procs that can chain to other enemies. These procs can also chain to a second enemy more than once, because the second enemy is also ragdolled, meaning each limb is considered a separate hitbox. Therefore, enemy 1 can theoretically chain to enemy 2 8 times. So not only does grouping give electric AoE weapons quadratic scaling by enemy density, since hitting 4 enemies with 1 shot creates 4 procs that all hit each other, resulting in 16 hits, aka 4 squared, but Ragdoll also increases those 4 enemies to roughly 5 hitboxes each, or 20 quote-unquote hitboxes total that can all cross-chain. This leads to Pseudo-Exponential Scaling. The math gets complicated due to deeper hitbox mechanics, but that's the best buzzword I can use to sum it up. Now that you know how Ragdoll hitboxes work with Hitscan AoEs and electric procs, it should be obvious why Ambassador has always been the flagship weapon for this niche of Ragdoll grouping abilities. It has it all: a big Hitscan AoE, pure electric damage, reaching 100% status. Its only drawback was having to actually reload the weapon and ammo consumption, which Garuda only partially mitigated with her Bloodforge Augment. BATTACOR is similar. The Altfire requires primary mode kills to charge, but fires a Hitscan AoE that appears to be heavily crit based. Actually, unlike the Ambassador, the AoE of BATTACOR has completely different crit and status splits even if it has the same base damage. The AoE has 20% base crit chance with 2.0 crit multiplier, but most importantly, has 50% base status. This is even higher than Ambassador and allows it to easily pass 100%. Unlike Ambassador, BATTACOR's primary fire mode can be built for a main DPS due to multiplicative gun CO, anywhere from a corrosive or viral hunter munitions build. But you can also make a dedicated Altfire build that focuses on electric Ragdoll just like the Ambassador if you're using a Ragdoll grouping ability. While Ambassador is pure electric, it only has 32% base status. BATTACOR ends up with 60% electric weight and is base 50% status on the Altfire AoE, so it still works. Now you once again have a Hitscan electric AoE that nukes enemies. Cool. So why does this augment matter so much? Because the Ambassador can shoot forever, provided you reload, unlike the BATTACOR requiring primary kills to charge the Altfire and consuming ammo. Let's look at that augment a bit closer. Sentient Barrage boosts our crit chance and crit damage by 300%. We ran the math on this on stream yesterday and you will only be dropping a Vital Sense to slot this augment instead of Critical Delay. Not only does this actually result in more damage, but conveniently also lets BATTACOR direct hit reach 204% for a juicy, consistent oranges, and it allows the base 20% AoE to pass 100% crit chance, whereas you would only be at 80% for inconsistent crits if you didn't use Critical Delay with this augment. If you have a Riven, then you should be rolling for crits or electric to replace the other crit mod or one of the electric mods on the build. But there is more to the augment than just this. You actually lose the Hitscan AoE when you slot it. Yes, the crazy Hitscan AoE that hits extra body parts on Ragdoll is no more. But what's different is you gain infinite body punch through, and electric procs can still cross-chain the extra body parts on Ragdoll. So now you hit 20 enemies with a direct shot, directly dealing roughly 20 or more procs total, and they cross-chain to hundreds of limbs. This more than makes up for the loss of the Hitscan AoE. But the big thing? Hitting an enemy gives a chargeback. So now, BATTACOR can work exactly like Ambassador, spamming Altfires out the wazoo. But there still is a difference. You don't have to reload the BATTACOR. You don't even have to use ammo. This means you don't need to resort to Garuda to get a similar factor in performance that the Ambassador had. The BATTACOR Altfire also doesn't use ammo, meaning infinite ammo for horde killing and never running out. For a weapon that was best in its niche with literally zero drawbacks besides the fact Ambassador has to reload and uses ammo, it's surprising that the BATTACOR Augment has managed to top it. So how would you mod this monstrosity? It's rather simple. Currently, my BATTACOR looks like this. You can build BATTACOR to focus on primary or Altfire mode, but today I'm showing you an Altfire build in preparation for the Nightwave Augment. The bottom left two slots are always used for elementals, be it raw corrosive DPS, viral hunter munitions, or this electric hunter munitions setup. For raw corrosive, you can just replace hunter munitions with Prime Shred, galvanized crosshairs, or bladed rounds. Prime Shred is used for builds that focus more on the primary fire, but you skip it for Altfire builds. Pre-Augment release, this build reaches 80% status chance. We use Amalgam Serration since the weapon has no punch through and we're relying on the Hitscan AoE electric to blow up ragdolled enemies. The Primed Bane double dips the electric and slash procs for 2.4 times more damage. Hunter Munitions is used because it is difficult to get merciless stacks going on a main electric DPS weapon. You use it the exact same way as Ambassador. You cast Larva and shoot into it. I picked Larva because it's just the fastest and tightest grouping helmet. Unlike Ambassador, you will have to kill 3 enemies between Altfires to charge it back up, but you can also use Airburst, Cold Horizon, or Pull. But what about once the Augment arrives? The weapon loses the Hitscan AoE with the Augment, meaning I will swap to Galvanize Aptitude. Why? This boosts our status from 80 to 120%. This is 1.5 times more total status, or literally 1.5 times more electric procs, boosting our damage by 1.5 times. This status bump is actually worth more than the amount of base damage that Serration brings to the table, since we already have primary Merciless. Serration would push us from 460 to roughly 615% base damage scaling, which is only a 33.7% overall damage increase. And if enemies somehow survive the first Battacor shot, the follow-up now has electric procs already present, meaning you get plus 80% base damage on the infinite punch-through shot, meaning gun CO now results in instead 1.5, but actually 1.6 times more damage instead, or 1.7 if Hunter Munitions also proc slash on them. The Augment will go over Vital Sense instead of Critical Delay because it pushes the direct hit to 204% crit chance for consistent oranges, as I said earlier. Your Riven, if you have one, would replace Stormbringer or Vital Sense depending on if it has crit damage or electric. These are the only slots a Riven can replace, unless, say, you have faction damage, but that limits your Riven to one faction. Having at least one of these stats is mandatory for the Riven to be slottable. Status chance is also an actually viable stat if electric is already present on the Riven. Merciless still, since all our kills will be coming from slash procs and electric procs. Look forward to this augment, and it's going to become one of the best weapons for Ragdoll grouping setups in the future. Cheers! If this is your first time watching, feel free to leave a like or better yet subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. 79.5% of you are not subscribed. I'm trying my best to get you new information out always as soon as possible, like I've been doing with Duviri. Stick around if you want to see interesting memes and builds on a nearly daily basis. Don't want to miss out on any of that, do you? That'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and see you all next time.